It's that time. Wish we had an open with actual music, but patent pending trademark coming time for the weekend Whiparound. We will save Atlanta United and NYC for the end. Right now, Atlanta United's favored at a -104. Your draw's a +285. NYC's a +244. Because we have games that don't really have meaning for bits and pieces of the conferences, they may just get glossed over. I will leave that up to Jarrett. At 255, Chicago Fire, New England Revolution. Once again.
Don't care. Let's take it to Shooter and find out what he has to say.
Yeah. So you're looking at
earmuffs.
Yeah. New England comes in with 41 points, 10 wins. Chicago 38 points and 10 wins. And that's where we are with that. Chicago's a +1.
The only thing worth mentioning here is that Gaston Jimenez got bobbed down out of a DP spot. So Chicago has a DP slot to go forward into next year with.
Yes.
That's Chicago didn't win the wooden spoon.
No.
They were wildly inconsistent this year.
Mm-hmm.
Had some games where, they gave up, I think, 4 or 5 goals at times. Where Slonina wasn't able to keep everything out.
Yep.
And other games where it clicked for them, and they looked like a team that could compete for the bottom of the playoff picture, and it was not meant to be. New England never really recaptured what they were last year.
No.
On top of that, New England regressed hard and did that thing where they're going to sell guys and weren't able to. Yeah, and you weren't able to. Dejan Buchanan as well.
Yeah.
You weren't able to recreate the magic that you had last year, and you probably played over your heads last year in getting to the point you got.
Yeah.
And then you take away, you were already going to regress. Then you took things away?
Mm-hmm.
No. Yeah. Bruce has got some work to do.
Yeah.
But he knows that.
Yeah. And New England did find a swap from Matt Turner with Petrovic, did not find a substitute for Adam Buksa, and that's what happened.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Thank you for pointing that out, because I should have mentioned Petrovic. He's really damn good for them this year.
Yeah. New England's a +215. Your draw's a +262. DC and Cincinnati. DC's a +233 at home, a home dog, +276. And FC Cincinnati is a +102. Cincinnati needs it. They're at 46 points, 11 wins. They need to better a result or match a result from Columbus and Orlando. So right now, 46 points, 11 wins. That's what's in it for Cincinnati. DC, wooden spoon bound at 27 points, and it'll be theirs. 33 matches, 7 wins, 20 losses. Bill Hamid might get his send-off for the franchise in this one. Has not played, I think, since May, and because of injuries and family concerns, he has not been around. But it looks like Bill Hamid will not be returning to DC next season at +231. Also at 255, Inter Miami, CF Montreal. Juiceboxers threw a blanket over the whole thing. Basically, both sides are a +150. And your draw is a +275. Inter Miami is in at 48 points. It's just positioning now because they are 2 behind New York Red Bulls. They are 2 ahead of Cincinnati and Columbus. But if there's any kind of a tiebreaker, say Miami gets 1 point, Cincinnati and Columbus both win, 49 points, first tiebreakers wins, Miami would keep the 5. So Miami could be the 5, 6, 7. They could be the 4. What do you think about this one?
I am fully on board with a Gonzalo Higuain MLS Cup run. Don't really care for Miami in general because,
and Montreal, if they win and Philadelphia draws, Montreal would be your top seed in the East because of more wins.
The funniest outcome possible.
19
the
wins.
Funniest outcome possible, because I mean, look, it's not the end of the world if it happens for Philly, but Rich, I'm going to make fun of Philly if it happens, because that means they should have lost to Atlanta.
Everything goes
should have lost in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Then they got blitzed by Charlotte.
I mean,
blitzed.
Yeah.
And then they get Miami, who's middle of the pack, and it's just kind of look. If Campana is doing if Campana goes on a goal scoring run in the end of the regular season into the playoffs, oh buddy, Miami's a problem out.
Yeah.
Just because they'll create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
They'll have two guys going who can create something out of nothing if that happens. But yeah, I'm gonna make fun of Philly for fumbling away the top seed in the East if it happens that way.
Yeah. We'll
I think Miami can get this done though, but which would render it moot.
Yeah. Philly's hosting Toronto at 255. Philly's at minus 217. Your draw's a plus 390. And Toronto FC is a plus 493. The gambit did not work out the way that Bob Bradley and Bill Manning had anticipated. So we'll see what happens there. Red Bulls in Charlotte.
Everybody said it in the summer that Insigne was not going to fix everything there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he has not. Toronto right now coming into their last game of the year, 33 games played, 34 points, 9 wins, 9-17-7 right now for Toronto. Red Bulls in Charlotte. This one's got a little bit of meaning to it because, once again, if Red Bulls win and they better New York City, then you could get into some double tiebreakers here. Say Red Bull wins, NYC ties. They're both at 53, identical records. You get into goal difference, and then it gets to NYC. So NYC is looking for a win, something more than a draw. If they get a draw, and they'll still get the 3. But there's some machinations at the 3 and the 4 involving NYC and Red Bulls. If that one was to continue their way through, Charlotte is a plus 420, and the draws a plus 300. Red Bulls right now are minus 161. Charlotte, 42 points in 33 games, and they obviously could finish no higher than 45 points on the year. And I know that we talked a lot about Charlotte as well and what we've seen from them this year, Jarrett, but Charlotte and Red Bull. Charlotte could put the gum in the works if they feel compelled to.
I think they will feel compelled to. Charlotte was a really tough out for Columbus. We saw what they did to Philly. We went over this before, but to rehash it real quick, Charlotte's initial build, not good.
No.
Charlotte's moves in summer, pretty damn good.
Yes.
To stabilize that team and made a good late run in the season when I didn't think they had enough in the tank. I think they can cause problems here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think there could be some interesting things that go down with that one. Speaking of interesting things that could go down, Orlando City Columbus Crew. Orlando City's a plus 106. Your draw's a plus 252, and Crew are a plus 241. The current situation in the East: Columbus above the playoff bar, 46 points, 10 wins. Orlando below the playoff bar, 45 points, 13 wins. I am wagering that Columbus will try to turn this into an absolute kickabout for 90 minutes and make it the most boring match that Central Florida has ever seen since insert Florida Citrus Bowl early on a Saturday morning here. That's just me.
Yep. This is somebody's got to survive.
Yes.
Kind of game.
Yep.
I want to see an early goal, even if it's off a mistake. Like, man, I don't know if y'all watched that first goal that Orlando gave up to Miami. Holy damn! Give me that.
Yeah.
Give me an early goal, so just sets everybody on the edge for 90 minutes. Where we're like, at that point, you're just trying to restabilize the ship. Everybody run to the left to stabilize it. Well, that's too many people. Run to the right. I just want to see that for 90 minutes. Give me stupidity for 90 minutes. Yeah. I stand by this. When your team is out of it, you vote for the most chaos and the most drunkenness.
Absolutely.
Just how it works.
Yeah. And that's your Eastern Conference kickoffs, all at 2:55. Western Conference kicks all at 5:18. Austin at Q2 is hosting Colorado Rapids. Austin's a minus 127. Colorado and the draw basically within the margin of error, both around plus 300. Austin right now, they're the 2. They've got it locked down. Colorado eliminated. So I'm thinking that this one is probably more of a celebration where you hear a lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan. the 2 seed for Austin in the West. Very, very cool accomplishment for them and for Josh Wolf this year.
It is. Still don't know if I trust them in the playoffs.
No, true.
They kind of feel like that team that has zero middle ground. Either they're going to get waxed in game one, or they're going to make a run to the Western Conference Final, and I don't feel like there's a lot of wiggle room there.
Yep. Also, FC Dallas, a -115. Your draw and Sporting Kansas City both hanging around at plus 280. Dallas needs a point, basically, not to be the 4. They're at 50 points, 13 wins. If LA wins, it's a 14th win. So Dallas is looking for a result of some kind to avoid being the 4 seed and then getting into some kind of a street fight with Nashville, because if Nashville gets a result, Dallas does not. Nashville would have the same record as Dallas, and going into the day, they have the same goal difference of plus 10. Like I said, right now, going into play, Dallas has a 3-point lead, goal difference of plus 10, 13 wins. Nashville in 5th right now. If Nashville gets a win, they're at 13 wins. Dallas loses, same result. You're going all the way down to goal difference as your next tiebreaker to figure out what happens if Dallas does not get a point and loses in their game against Sporting Kansas City. Sporting Kansas City, once they got their acquisitions in the barn, stormed up the table in relative form. They're at 40 points hanging in for the last game of the season. Houston and LAG. At Houston, Houston's a plus 202. Your draw's a plus 290. The Galaxy are a plus 110. Once again, we mentioned LA. LA's at 47 points. They have 13 wins. So they win, Dallas loses. That's the 14th win. LA could be the 3 seed. But they can't nap, because if they don't get a result, then they're looking over their shoulders at Nashville, at Portland, at Minnesota. And the only one that they're not really looking at is Salt Lake to be as high as a 4 because of the number of wins. Remember, wins, number 1 tiebreaker. Don't ask me why. Them's the rules. So LAG has to get a result in Houston for that chaos from 4 through 9, basically. LAFC and Nashville. LAFC -159. Your draw's a plus 336. Nashville is a plus 365. We've mentioned the madness. LAFC, I want to see what their lineup looks like. Do they trot folks out for 45 minutes just to give them curtain calls and swap them at halftime? That's what I'm looking for LAFC. Nashville, once again, needs a result, something on the board to possibly get them to the 4, possibly get to the 3. When you look at LAFC and Nashville, one team's chasing something, one team's already in the barn. What do you think?
I think give me the draw. I mean, it's one of those that's just gonna.
All right, so then let's go to the next one. Minnesota, Vancouver. You want chaos? Here's your chaos. Minnesota's a -130 at Allianz. Your draw is basically a plus 300. Vancouver's a plus 310. Vancouver comes into the day at 43 points, 12 wins. Then if Minnesota right now, team 7, above the playoff bar, 45 points, 13 wins. Vancouver wins. They're at 46 points. Minnesota then drops out. Does Adrian Heath and Oscar Pareja, do they, to speak English very goodly on a Friday morning, do they drift out of the playoff picture? Do both of them not make it, Orlando and Minnesota?
I desperately want Vancouver to win this game and get into the playoffs.
You just want Manny Sartini to run around with not 100% of his clothing on.
No. I want Vancouver and Miami in the Cup.
Okay.
That's what I want.
Okay.
I want the most sickos Cup you can possibly give me.
Okay.
I want the Sickos committee to weigh in on this.
Yes, and I think you should. I think you should at the Sickos committee and see what they feel about decision day. 2 others to go here before we talk about a match overseas at 3:00 at Wembley. And thank you, Bern, for reminding us all, as we talked about it yesterday, but we'll get into it a little bit more today with Jarrett. RSL and the Timbers at 518. RSL's a minus 116. Your draw's a plus 293. And Portland is a plus 273. Remember, RSL out of the playoff picture right now. 11's across the board through 33 matches, 44 points. Portland, 2 points above them in sixth at 46 points, 11, 9, and 13. What do you think about this one? With RSL in Portland.
Sorry, I took a bite of food.
No worries. Where'd you go this morning?
I thought you were waxing.
No.
I didn't go anywhere. I had Bojangles delivered.
I might have gone to Martin's or something and brought it home with you.
No, it's probably. I mean, next time I will.
Okay.
Because that is the real popular choice.
Yes.
Steak and gravy biscuit is the way to go.
Yes. Do not anger Savarese during a playoff race, basically, is how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, but this feels like a win and in for either team.
Yeah.
Do you want to bet RSL can't get an early goal and sit there and sit back?
Oh, well.
And Portland has to hunt like a penalty because Portland's got
it's that Rio Tinto. So yeah, I mean that's how tough it can get.
RSL gets an early goal here and it could get stupid. Portland gets an early goal here and you can probably turn it off.
Yeah. So make sure that you have your multiple devices charged and ready to go. Last game in the West at 5:15. And by the way, we will catch up with Nico Moreno. Thursdays with Nico is on a Friday at 2:00. So 2:00 here in the network. It will be Thursdays with Nico on Friday. Seattle hosting San Jose. Seattle's a big favorite. Minus 161. Your draw's a plus 334. San Jose is a plus 374. Seattle not making it into the postseason at 40 points. San Jose not making it into the postseason at 34 points. I think this is the first time in MLS history that both of your conference champions from the year before did not make the playoffs.
Yeah, and this one's just going to be kind of we're going to walk through, make sure nobody gets hurt, maybe try and get a win to end the season on a high note, but then people go back to practice. And I saw this bantered about because Doug mentioned it yesterday, and Doug was right. I mean, yeah, they'll practice after this. The teams don't make the playoffs; they'll keep practicing up to MLS Cup because they can.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where they can. If you've got you've got a manager and players who are returning next year. You can start implementing stuff for the next year if you want to. You can work on stuff. And honestly, if I'm a player that is out of contract and I don't know if my option is going to be picked up or if I'm going to be back, I'm going to use those world-class facilities as much as humanly possible until my key card stops working, until my PIN number stops working, until my retinal scan has been erased.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use those facilities to stay in tip-top shape and to get ready for the next year because it might be with someone else, but you're going to use those facilities if you're out of contract and stay sharp. And if you are going to be a part of the project going forward, then you're going to use that time in a more productive, because I think we overstated for years the importance of the extra practices and bowl season for college football.
Right.
But this kind of is what that feels like, except it can be very beneficial because you might bring. Some of these teams are going to bring a lot of people back. Some of them might only bring a couple people back, but it's a chance to make adjustments if you want to build chemistry, to work together, to introduce new concepts if you want to, that sort of thing. So yeah, they'll be right back at it next week. And pro athletes might take some time off to travel, but they still work hard. They still work a lot. I know I've known some who didn't even make the MLS. They're still working, 4 or 5 days a week if they're not playing, even in the off season. You're staying sharp. You have to keep pushing because if you don't, someone else will. So we'll see. We'll see what comes out of all of it into early next season. We'll have a lot to digest after this weekend, and Monday we can just kind of see how the dust settles.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk to Greg Garza about coming up at the bottom of the hour. Is, continuing to use your key card and making sure your retinal scan works, even if a season's over, because it's how you make the impression on your current boss and how those recommendations could work their way to a future boss. It's like, yeah, season was over, dude didn't show up. That's not going to do you any good if you're looking if you're looking to stay with your current employer, but B, if also there's an individual that might be interested in you and they're going to ask, hey, what kind of a guy was he? How did he respond? How did he do A, B, C, D, and E? And if you sit there and go, yeah, the season was over and he never showed up, and it wasn't all that. And then you have, he was a great teammate, great player, showed up, was always there to help out, those kinds of things. And so even if the season's over, it's not over. And you have stuff like that that's definitely a part of it.